Good evening. Welcome to your Ass Hurts News Network, coming to you live from the tip top of Cock Tower Square with your host, Sergeant Friday. Sarge, how you doing?
Oh, good evening, Cletus. How the hell are you?
I am amazing. How are you?
Fucking beyond amazing.
There you go.
It's insane. It really
I,
is.
I mean that fits because I aspire to be Sarge one day.
Oh, I say that's an admirable fucking goal, an admirable fucking goal. So what up there, Great Pearl? We see her in the chat room. Yeah, so our stream tonight's nothing about nothing because nothing ever matters anyway.
Yeah. Nothing but the entertainment.
Right. Truth doesn't matter. I mean, what the hell good is truth? Truth doesn't serve anybody any purpose unless you're willing to take responsibility and do something with it. Right?
Yeah. It's boring. Truth is boring.
Yeah. Who wants to be bored?
That's why more people watch fictional shows and movies than
Oh,
than
I have
documentaries,
confirmed
right?
something.
Huh?
I've confirmed something. This might even be newsworthy. Hang on.
Right.
In fact, Truth and Transparency Olana's got rid of that smoke detector beep. That shit is gone. It's almost as if like I don't even know, folks. I will it and it be there. Cletus, what say you?
I I want to say that she got the message from your Ass Hurts News Network.
Yeah, well, why not?
But hey, you never know.
I'm just saying, it's almost like where else would it have came from? I gave my consent for that to be removed from her channel, and it,
there you go.
My consent is a big thing in this planet, folks. Are you from Ohio? I live near Cleveland. You look super familiar. Well, Renee, I don't know, but that lucky bastard that looks like me, you might want to try hooking up with him. Although it wouldn't be authentically Sarge because I'm in New York. But an imposter Sarge sometimes, fill-ins, right, Cletus? You got to spread yourself around, but sometimes it's state to state's a little difficult.
I guess.
Yeah, Sarge is a terrible boyfriend, but he's a great fucking one-nighter. And that isn't an applause. That's something I need fucking penicillin for.
Oh shit, that's fucking funny.
What a fucking mess, bro. Let's see. I had a very quiet day. We endured the remnants of the storm that ravaged the Florida region.
I did see that.
Yeah,
I
we
saw
were
that on the
supposed to
map.
get flooding. The only flood we got is fake news and fucking bullshit fucking theories on whatever the fucking case may be.
I did see something tragic and amazing at the same time today. Amazing in a bad way, but just it's tragic regardless. That did you see the video of the plane that went down in Brazil?
No.
Yeah, I think it was 62 or 67. It was 60 some odd people were on board. Obviously, they all died, but the damn thing is literally coming down straight down in a downward spiral. It is the wildest shit I've ever seen.
They must have lost their tail.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's been a few plane crashes that go down like that, just straight boom. See it. One of them went into the drink, another one crashed into land, and then so yeah, that's tragic, man. I wonder what the hell they know what happened.
I don't know if they know yet. I know the video taken is something I'll never forget. Right, seeing that gigantic.
You should have got a copy of it to play it on here. We could have played it, right?
I'm pretty sure it's all over the fucking place, but yeah.
Oh, all right. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's
okay, Carl came in from the firmament. He's hanging from the. He's like a bat. He hangs from the firmament and then drops down to come into the stream there.
Well, he's got to keep the lights up there working.
Right.
Yeah.
He's he's got a flat head. There's also another one we know is flathead. They're both thinking about flat Earth. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's their thing, and I what the hell is it? That's as accurate as talking about the Banfield boys or the reflections in the asphalt or the fucking bubbly fucking ass bubbles fucking woman, or you can go on and on and on. But apparently, and I pointed out to Lana yesterday, I don't know if she probably ain't paying no attention to it, but you know, a lot of people, if they've listened to what's been going on with that case from the beginning, as everybody claims they have, they wouldn't be surprised when someone like me says there's 2 Elantras in that fucking video or in that case. They identify 2 Elantras in 2 different in different locations. One's at the crime scene, and then they track. There may be more than 2, but there's absolutely 2 of them. But they may be tracking fucking, you know, they may be Elantra drunk over there when they say Indian Hills. It just suddenly appears out of nowhere. All of a sudden, there's a car on Indian Hills Drive.
Right.
Right at 312. How did it get there?
Right.
Did it leave from that neighborhood? Did it come from one of the residences on that street? Well, there's no video showing it getting to Indian Hills. And there's businesses like crazy and cameras that should have shown the route getting it there. So that's an Elantra, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the Elantra in front of the property in 11 to 13. That's an Elantra. Then there's the Elantra over there by some fucking cigarette or fucking Indian store. And then there's the Elantra that Ann says was the primary focus of the FBI. Used the image of an Elantra going the wrong way at the wrong time on the wrong road. There's that Elantra. So we're up to at least 4 or 5 of them fucking cars. Yeah, kind of fucking amazing. But let's put this guy in jail, chop his balls off or his head off or whatever the fuck we do over there. I don't know what they do over there. You know,
has there been any new information via the court system in this case?
I've been trying to maintain this level of ignorant bliss, which really, folks, it's like better than any drug I've ever been on. And so I'm trying to move into the realm of 5.62 billion. I'm trying to join that group, and in doing that, you end up with regurgitated information that's really goes nowhere and does nothing but burn up. I mean, you could sit and watch the hands of the clock move. That clearly takes place. I mean, yeah, so I'm just trying to join the ranks of the ignorant, and the blissfully ignorant, and there's probably like the grass is probably greener over there. I don't know. What do you think? You think Butthole Betty knows how to grow grass? I don't know.
Well, according to something she said, her grass has grown up quite a bit. So I'm assuming, either she knows how to grow it or it grows just fine where she's at without much assistance. So,
that's good. Yeah, maintenance-free lawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I didn't enjoy riding the lawn tractor on the absolute smallest yard you could use a lawn tractor on, I would cover my fucking yard in gravel. Pea gravel, decorative stone. But that tractor just runs so nice, and it's cup holder on it, and it's just too alluring not to drive around the lawn track.
That cracks me up that you call it a tractor.
What would I do without it, man? I mean,
that's just so fucking funny to me that you call it a tractor. I was literally looking around on Facebook Marketplace earlier tonight, and I found a mini John Deere bulldozer. The son of a bitch is literally the size of your lawn tractor, but it's got tracks and a dozer blade on the front of it. I was like, that thing is awesome. I want it so damn bad. No, I hadn't bought it, but I saw it, and I'm like, I've never, ever seen something like that. I want it so damn bad, it ain't even funny. But my point being, that's more of a tractor than your damn riding lawnmower.
I don't know, man. There's something about a front engine, rear drive, 5-speed forward gear, and reverse lawn tractor. There's just something alluring about that. But, I'm just saying. I typically keep it in 4th gear. I try to be a little bit humble. I don't want to cut the grass and wreck. I'm not trying to break records, but, plus the turns get real tight because
all 3 of them, because you
what do you make
get a little 3 laps?
Right, I might have to go to 0 turn if I really want to do this yard with the sign of excellence. This way, the radius of turns would be. I could actually cut it in circles.
There you go.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It'd be like, I don't know if anybody would get lost in it if they followed the cut, but. I could do like they used to do down there in Peru, where they got all them fucking things that they carved into the dirt and people walked and followed around.
I have actually mowed on me and another guy on 0 turns, and we mowed in circles, literally from the inside out. It was I was like, fuck it, try it. It's a lot of land, so why not try it? It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, my yard's small, so I figure if I did a circle, it would be unique. I'm probably gonna, if this tractor ever dies, that's really that's the timeline for getting rid of the grass completely, hitting the whole yard with Roundup and just killing everything like they did in Vietnam,
Yeah,
and
you're
then
gonna.
planting fucking stone on top of it.
You can paint it green.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's a good idea. I could paint the fucking rock gold and pretend I'm Trump.
There you go.
Fucking A. It's crazy, man. But yeah, so nothing about nothing, which means I don't even, it means nothing, right?
Yeah. Nothing
I
about
gotta
nothing.
check it. Yeah, I don't even know. I actually was able, because after the this flood that was supposed to come through here that never fucking happened. It did rain all day. And I ended up, getting some time, some nice hour in the pool, and listen to some stupid shit on fucking YouTube and whatever, and thought to myself, yep, well, this is information that's not going to really help a stream, so I'll have a stream about nothing. Nothing seems to be pretty complete.
Yeah. Well, that's about the most that you're going to get from the internet other than entertained.
Right, right. So, yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't even know what to say.
This comment on the screen is funny because that is so fucking true. The striped grass.
Mm-hmm.
I see that when I'll be driving down the road or something, and I'll see that, and I'm like, I remember the first time I saw it and actually paid attention to it, and I was like, how the fuck do they do that? And I tried for so long to figure it out, and then I finally got tired of trying, and I looked it up and realized that it's a drag, and I'm like, okay. And I've
It's
yet
a
to
what?
fucking you pull a drag behind the mower.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and it
that
lays the grass the other way.
right, and
Right.
yeah, I've thought I thought about it for a long time. Tried a bunch of different things, couldn't get it done. Even tried to make my own drag, and I'm just so damn cheap. I won't go buy one. And every time I go anywhere and I see that, I got a neighbor that lives right up the road that does that, and I see it, and I'm like, yeah, that's nice. I'm jealous.
Not
But I
me,
bet
man. I garden a lot when my kid would come around. I kept the yard mint and all of that. And then she outgrew all of that stuff, and then all the nightmares with the ex. I just was like, what? I don't care. Look, everything that grows out there is green, right?
mm-hmm.
And that's the goal, right? You want a nice. They say a lush green lawn. Well, I got the lushest weed you've ever seen.
The
Yeah,
luscious weeds,
I got buttercups. What are those flowers? The yellow ones that come up there.
buttercups.
Yeah, yeah, I get them all over the front yard, and it's funny because I'm germinating all the neighbors' yards. So, SARS is contagious. Everybody, quick, grab some fucking penicillin.
So contagious, even the shit in your yard spreads.
Fucking crazy.
That's funny as hell.
Dandelions too. Yep. Yep, they spread pretty well too. And the other reason I want to put the stone down, to be very honest with you, but again, I can't betray my lawn tractor. I've had that thing for for a long time, since I moved in here. So was it about 15 years ago? More than that. But it's a 1990 model Toro wheel horse, which is yeah, I'll be taking the car out after the stream, 100%. I got the need for speed. I know all about the lawn track. Say that again there.
I was thinking about taking the truck out this weekend myself because I finally got it running and everything good, and I got out today and was just like, holy shit, it looks like it ought to be hot, but it's only like 80 something, mid 80s. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is nice. No humidity.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. The wind comes in, blows all that fucking moisture out. Yeah, yeah. How's it? Have you driven it down the road? Have you stomped on it? What have you done?
Stomped on it in the driveway, and that's it. I haven't
And what
even.
happened?
Well, I mean, I haven't worked on it since the last time we talked about it, so I still got to go out there and try to retune it and all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll probably get to it.
Get the squirter to engage a little quicker. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So, yeah, I got my car's knock wood, man. It just runs like a fucking clock. It fucking, you could be going down the road at fucking 25, 30 miles an hour, punching it, lights them fucking tires up, blows smoke out the back end like a forest fire. It's awesome, bro. I'm telling you, man. You ever driven something with 650 horse?
Uh,
A
no.
really light car?
Probably the closest I've come was I had a Challenger with the 392 in it one time, and that that was probably the most powerful car I've been in, and I think it's like 406 stock is
Yeah.
what they say. So
485, I think they are. Yep.
this was a
They're a
50.
heavy car too, though. They're 42 or
Yeah,
4,400
yeah,
pounds.
yeah.
But you definitely feel it. I mean, you definitely know you got some power under your foot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So don't. I mean, in its own class, it's definitely a fucking great car. I don't win all the time. Like on the 13th or the 17th, I'm gonna race in a street class. Let me see if I can bring it up. And it's $20 to enter the event. The car has to be completely street legal, can have no power adders. They call it daily driver. And it can't have any nitrous, it can't have turbos or blowers on it. And it has to pass the inspection, meet the laws. It can have only a certain max size tire. So there's rules for the class, but my car easily, and that's why I built it, easily slips into that class. And so, there's very few 2,900 pound fucking 650 horsepower cars that are daily drivers. I've got automatic overdrive and a lockup converter. I mean, I could, and driving it every day wouldn't be an issue. So if I had a place to report to work every day, driving this back and forth would be perfectly fine. Because I want to be able to say that I've got the fastest street car in the city.
Yeah.
These guys that do beat me, when they do, the few cars that do beat me got, massive turbos on them and huge blowers or big shots of nitrous. Motor to motor, they wouldn't stand a chance. If it was straight up what's under the hood with no addition, I'd be swapping all of it. And I do swap, even those guys with power adders, but not all of them power adders are equal. Some of them things, you could quadruple the output of the engine. I mean, I can actually break this car down and redo that block and put a turbo on it and drive around on the street with 1,100 horsepower. It's crazy.
I do have. It is. I do have a subject that now that I'm thinking about it that I've been wanting to talk to you about because it's something I've been thinking about. So, old Blowhole has got a restraining order, right? Or an ex parte restraining order taken out on her. 3 of them, in fact. And as far as I know, it's over things that she has said. And Clue and I have had conversations about it, and we've gone back and forth with it on is that enough, right? And where does the line get crossed with you overstepping your rights versus a court interfering with your rights, especially when it comes to free speech?
Well, if for speech is free, okay,
mm-hmm.
and I, like I could say, I'm going to kill you,
mm-hmm.
and we're in 2 different states, right? We can argue, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kick your ass. That's probably nothing they can do anything about, because there's no opportunity, or unless they come here and they see it. I got a big plan, a map on the wall, right? I don't even think they would pursue that. But if your talk is insightful and it's and I don't know, you got any I don't even know when it crosses the line. You pretty much got to yell fire in a theater for legal action to take place, which means, in my humble opinion, your words have to incite others or yourself to go create an act.
Well, and one of the reasons that it really got me to thinking about it was, I think it was when she was live the other day, she was talking about this, and they were her and Truth were talking about the laws in Tennessee related to them, right? So I looked it up, and the word stalking and harassment, right? So that's, you can get a restraining order in Tennessee for a violent or threat of violent act or something like that, or stalking or harassing. And I looked into that a little bit more, and the gist of it is, if somebody feels that they've been harassed, and
Right.
it's very subjective, right? All they have to do is feel that they were harassed and show a pattern of the behavior that they feel was harassment, and
Okay.
that essentially is enough.
Well, didn't she inspire people to take pictures and follow these people around?
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that to be a
Right.
fact, but you know, it's a fair assumption. She's definitely affiliated with that. Whether she inspired it or not, I don't know, but I know she is affiliated with it for sure.
Hmm.
And that's, I'm not trying to really come to her defense, but I'm just evaluating the situation, because ever since it happened, I'm like, you know, I mean, if it's within the law that for a restraining order to be taken out, then hey, do your thing. But I've just been thinking about that ever since I read that the other day, because I'm like, it's just such a subjective fucking gray area. Whereas, you know, where free speech becomes something that is a legal action, not even from a civil standpoint, but from a criminal, or, you know, something like a restraining order. And it's just, it was wild to me, because I mean, I get the harassment aspect of it, but I don't know. It kind of blew my mind, because I've always looked at something like a restraining order as there had to be some type of threat of physical violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I my understanding of they're called stay away orders. So when people, the term has been used restraining order, but nobody's being restrained, right?
Right.
But it's a stay away order. And so I think that if you electronically put yourself in a position to make contact with that person, you'd be in violation of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could do nothing intentional to put yourself in contact electronically or otherwise with the individual that's going for the protection. Um, and I don't know. She was calling him out and all kinds of shit. I suspect her behavior is a little bit over the top, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, you know, I haven't watched a ton of her, but you know, other than the fact that she has come here and done some things that go far above what anybody else has done, I couldn't really separate her from anybody else that's on the, you know, Hang Chris and Katie train.
Right.
And you know, maybe that's enough to put it over the top. I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about, because when I read the legal code, it
Well,
was,
what happened with you guys when you were told by Seth to stay away?
well, we were told to, well, I wasn't told shit, but Clue was told to cease and desist talking
Right.
about him or Sebastian. And she said, well, do what you got to fucking do, and continue. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, in a cease and desist, you've got to specifically state what it is, what the action that the person is taking has, how that's harmed you, or you've got to at
Right.
least specify what the action is. You can't
Well,
just
so
say,
no Betty got any priors in relation to stalking or harassing?
she's, I mean, she's got a checkered past, to say the least. I don't know specifically if she's got anything related to stalking her or harassing, but
You didn't Ben verified her ass?
well, I mean, I know what her record is. I've
Oh,
seen it. I've got.
is it stalking and harassing or no?
I didn't see anything in there about stalking and harassing in terms of a record. Now there is a video record of what I would consider to be that, but you know, in terms of a legal action, I don't know that she's ever had anything in any state. The only record I've seen is Florida, right? So she may have shit in other states. I don't know, but
Oh, okay. Well,
I was just curious your thoughts on that, because it just seemed like the law being a subjective ass thing like that is really odd to me, because it's literally a situation where, for all intents and purposes, if something you say I take as harassment, I could go file a restraining order against you
right.
and show a history of that based on your strength. And it's like, I don't know. It was really weird to me to read that law and think about that.
Well, let's see how it plays out in the courts, and then we'll know, right?
Yeah.
I find it's going. To be very honest with you, I don't think anybody should be filing against anybody. my personal view is. I mean, that should have happened way back in the day when they were actually stalking the guy's house, following him around, taking. I mean, at that point, if there was any question that these streamers were putting them in jeopardy, that was the moment.
Yeah.
All this time later, I honestly, my opinion would be, let it go, folks. Move on. Right? I mean, I don't know. Get a hot air balloon and fucking go look for your kid. Do something, man. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know all the details or the reasons of why either. So you know, it's just more the law being a subjective thing like that is just so interesting to me. Because
it is. My ex-wife got a restraining order against me in a marriage where there was never any violence, there was never any police contact, or even the hint that that would ever happen.
Yeah.
What up, 12 gauge? And all she had to do was say she was afraid I was going to get a gun and shoot her.
Yeah.
Not that I had a gun, not that I threatened her with a gun, not that I ever did anything at all that you would consider dangerous to your spouse or threatening to your spouse. Never. Yeah, that simple statement was enough to get me thrown out of my home. And then she got me violated on it because she overheard me tell my lawyer she was a fucking cunt. And she ran down to the fucking police with her lawyer and said that she felt threatened and that I was in violation of the stay away order. But to be clear, I was in a courtroom where she had filed for divorce. That statement took place within a courtroom that I had to be in or you know, be in contempt of court. So I had to be in that room. So whatever I said in that room, which wasn't said to her, it was said to my attorney. And even if I had addressed her, the order of protection didn't apply because it was through her actions that put me in her presence. You follow me?
Yeah.
So I ended up beating that. I ended up using a real estate lawyer that only the only reason he was the lawyer of record for me, but he let me use the law library that was attached to his office to get the information together so that he could then compile a motion and give it to the judge. And that motion won the day. It was like, fuck, can I stay away from somebody? I'm supposed to be in court with them. How do you do that? Back then, there was no such thing as Zoom. Okay.
It's just really weird to me to read legal code and see it address something that is subjective, like a feeling, because I cannot wrap my head around that. I've been thinking about it for days now. Like, it's just, that's so strange to me, right? Like, laws, I don't know that laws should protect feelings. You know what I mean?
No, they shouldn't. And that's what's going on in Britain right now. I'm giving 12 gauge. If you're out there, here's a link, 12 gauge. If you got some excuse not to come in, well then take that fucking potato ass head of yours out. No, feelings should not be prosecutable. Your hurt feelings, right? I agree. And here's the other thing: when the basis the restraining order was issued was false, and it was baseless. It was there was no reason to give her a restraining order against me. And it says your devices are not connected. Is what there you go. Look at that. We got 12 gauge in here.
What's happening? 12?
11 plus 1 has shown up. Hey, you got your hair done. Look at that.
I can't see him. You got a comment over his face.
Oh, well, let me uncomment his face. You look down. If you're in StreamYard, you look down and you can see him.
What's going on, man?
This time. Last time he joined up, he didn't have a shirt on. I think he was sitting there naked, but you
know. Hey, man, I'm in my own home. I got to be comfortable. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah. But you're broadcasting in other people's homes. We got to be comfortable. You know what I mean?
Well, y'all didn't see anything, man. Y'all are good. How y'all been?
Excellent. And if you join the priesthood, you're not going to be one of those guys that wears nothing under your frock, are you?
That's funny.
Oh man, been a while.
What's new in the Idaho case? Do you know anything new?
Bro, I quit talking about that fucking case.
Well, you talked about it a couple of days ago. I seen it. I was in there.
Well, I was using it for an example, bro.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not doing any kind of, the whole show. That was the last one that I did when you were in there. I'm not doing any streams devoted to the whole freaking case for hours anymore. I'm done with that case.
Yeah, you got to leave it to that paparazzi guy. He seems to be the genius of it all. He's convicted everybody except he hasn't admitted to the crime yet, which I think is eventually what he's going to have to do. But, I don't know.
Yeah,
What do I
he
know?
done convicted everybody, man. You're right about that.
And he's
Cletus, how you
now
doing, man?
people are now coming around to accuse Dylan.
Really?
There's a stream today. Something was out there. Is Dylan Mordson the real culprit or something to that effect? And I laughed. I said, "You guys are just 2 years late on viewing it from that fucking aspect." I said that in July 2022, and then you guys dropped Linda Lane on us and blew it all up. Everybody ignored it.
Yeah, the Linda Lane bullshit is just too much, man. It's just too much.
Every lunatic and their brother came. They're still arguing over all those little video clips. And Adam, I told Adam. And she sounds like she has fucking Down syndrome when she says that. What the fuck was that all about? What's Adam got to do with anything? Could have been she told Adam that she has some venereal disease or something. We don't know what the fuck she told Adam, right?
Yeah.
No telling, man. No telling what she
She could have
told
told
him.
Adam she was saved by Jesus Christ. She could have told Adam she's going to vote Trump. We don't know what she said to Adam, and we never will, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I love about these people that make these arguments and impugn all these other individuals that are not named except by the fucking nameless idiots on fucking YouTube.
I mean, it gets so damn conspiracy based. It's stupid, man.
Look what they did with the Trump shooting. Now the guys that are claiming there are two shooters, one of them, now he's saying the second shooter was a cop on the ground shooting at the suspect. This person in the beginning there were two shooters, one on the water tower and one on the roof. Now they've in order not to look stupid that there weren't two shooters, because there's no question there was one guy shot at Trump, right? No question. It's unarguable. And now he's trying to, I guess maybe to save grace, because he gave everybody I was in this and I was in special forces and I was this and I was that. He sells you this bunch of fucking, look at me, I'm a fucking whatever. And then, if I tell you there were two shooters, you should trust me because I got all this background and experience. And this guy can't let go that he was wrong. Can't admit he's wrong. So rather than admit that there weren't two shooters, now he's going to suggest the second shooter was a cop on the ground shooting at the roof.
Well,
What do you think, Cletus?
I did see the a little bit of that body cam footage you were talking about the other day. Clue was playing it on the TV last night, I think it was, and I was just watching it, just kind of observing, right? And the biggest thing that I noticed with that is I felt bad for the officers that were trying to get to that roof, because they were so unprepared.
Yeah.
They looked like they had they just threw on an outfit and grabbed some guns and shit, and we're trying to figure out how to make it happen, right? And it's like that. The other thing I noticed that I thought was really weird, that I'm sure there will be some conspiracy theory out there about it, is the time that was on the footage. The time was 4:15. And I was like, I noticed that because I looked up in the corner and saw it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, this didn't happen at 4:00, especially Eastern time. What the fuck is that about? But it was just when you combine that with just the clusterfuck of them trying to figure out how to handle this situation. I mean, there was an abundance of them there, and I'm just
the police are arguing
almighty.
on some of that footage. They're arguing that the Secret Service should have been on that building.
Well, and I mean,
and what these people, what the people on the second floor were doing, yes, they could see a portion of the building, but they were mainly overlooking the crowd. That's what they were doing. They were stationed to do that for whatever reason, okay? Which makes sense if someone in the crowd pulls a gun. Okay, I could see that being a necessary part of security. But the security of the roof itself, these cops are arguing, was the responsibility of the Secret Service.
I don't disagree with that.
Right.
Somebody should have, undoubtedly, and I think that body cam footage of all those guys trying to fucking get up there proves that they were unprepared for that scenario. They were just completely unprepared for that scenario, and it's a damn shame, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that their only job?
I would have just started shooting.
I'm sorry.
If I had to point my gun somewhere else, I would have started unloading my 9mm into the air or at the end of the ground. I would have, just to get attention on that building and get Trump to drop. I would have made You could take my badge when it was done.
Yeah.
I would have shot that guy that dropped down, that saw the shooter with a rifle. In my opinion, I would have pulled my fucking handgun and started shooting in the air. Okay, that may have then prompted the Secret Service to tackle Trump before that kid even got a shot off. If there was, it's Monday morning quarterback, so I'm not holding it against the guy or being accusatory, but I know me. If I seen something like that, fuck, boy, I'd be pulling the trigger on that fucking gun, and until action was taken, right?
Yeah.
They were in a panic. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're trained. You can never shoot your gun unless you're faced with a deadly situation. I don't know what their training is, but old Sarge is kind of hard-headed. I would just fuck the rules, man. Put me in jail for whatever. Take away my pension. I don't give a fuck. I'll go work at 7-Eleven and eat Slurpees till I fucking explode. I don't mind.
What were you trying to say, 12 gauge?
I forgot, bro.
No.
But the sniper that was, I mean, didn't the sniper see him on the roof and he didn't engage until after he shot at Trump? He couldn't have engaged with the shooter before he shot a shot off. Like he couldn't have shot him.
It's possible. I wonder if, and in that situation too, I wonder if he may have thought that was a law enforcement, or he just couldn't believe his own eyes. Right. He's on a roof with another guy. There's another guy on a roof across, 150 yards away with a gun. And I'm on the roof with a gun, and we're securing this area. Is that guy a threat, or is he one of us? I could see that moment of confusion, right?
Yeah, because he was dressed in, tactical gear, it looked like.
So, maybe he knew that the police were securing that area. Maybe he thought he was looking at an officer from the fucking local police department, the ESU. I don't know what went through his mind, but we, the people, that man should be interviewed, not criticized or attacked or made fun of or conspirized. But that particular shooter, questions of fairness should be asked him, and the public should get his testimony.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of all these jackrabbits running around out here with these fucking conspiracy theories about the whole thing. People make mistakes. I mean, we're all fallible. In this particular case, though, I think that there's too many coincidences that are mistakes that left the building opened, left a known fucking weirdo running around, a guy with a backpack, a guy that parked his vehicle among the police where the police were, a guy that was found with seen with a rangefinder. I mean, how many coincidences around that? All that has happened around that building too. So it's not like they seen him with a rangefinder down the road. He was by the very building that he eventually climbed up on. His bicycle was parked over in that area. His car was parked. Everything about this kid was connected to that building. Every sighting, every picture. And yet, how do you have all those coincidences and make the argument that this wasn't the Secret Service leaving that slot open for someone to get up there and do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you not make that and you call it a conspiracy theory? Fine, I don't mind. But all of that coincidences, there can't be that many, right?
Yeah, after a while, you got to call it for what it is,
And they didn't go to the meeting in the morning. They didn't have common radio channels. They took that building out of their protective zone. And in all honesty, probably the best place to take a shot from if it were unprotected. The water tower would have been a fucking nightmare to shoot from. To get up there, to hide yourself for all of that time on a big round curved fucking object. That's not a sniper's perch.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? It's like trying to fucking balance on a beach ball 300 feet in the air. Who wants to do that? So to leave that particular building unprotected or consider it outside of the Secret Service's zone, man, I don't even get it, man. I don't know.
Didn't you show a video the last time I was up here about the cops overlooking that building out of a window, and then they were called out or something?
Yeah, that was the story, and that story's been changed a few times, so it's still fairly unclear. But if they would have been at the next window down, there would have been not only the ability to overview the crowd, but the entire roof itself, which that's what bothers me. There was a big downspout that came down the side of the window where they were, and you couldn't look out that window without sticking your head out and physically looking to the left or finding an extreme angle from within that room. You know, have you ever tried doing that? Look down the street through a window that really doesn't face that. It really doesn't give you that angle, so you stick your face up against the window to increase your view. I mean, who these guys are professional snipers, and I don't know what kind of training you got, but to me, you'd want the most unobstructed view of your area that you're protecting, wouldn't you? So there's another coincidence of ignorance. I don't know. You know, we're never gonna know, but I it's just like every other case, 12 gauge. Everything turns into a conspiracy theory.
Of course.
Right? And this idea, there's no way one person can do that. That's probably the most efficient way to take out a government connected person is a lone shooter.
Why?
Well, because he's hard to track and understand. In other words, like let's say Harvey Oswald. Let's take that as an example.
Okay.
You know how hard it would be to determine that person's actually going to commit this crime if there's nothing that they've done in their communications or in anything you've observed that tells you for sure that's what they're going to do. Right.
Yeah.
And then this person mingles in with the crowd and, you know, the guy works at the book depository. Nobody connected that. In this case, this kid comes to a Trump rally, which is what people are doing in the area. So I honestly, I'm not accusing the government of working with this kid. There's a conspiracy theory out there that the mother there's some money that feeds back to that mother through the company that shorted Trump stock. So they're coming out with these elaborate fucking conspiracy theories. I don't even want to hear, man.
Yeah.
And so
my whole question on this though is how did he get the freaking weapon up there without being seen? You know what I mean? Like I know he could have taken it apart and then put it back together, but all that takes time. Like, was he that proficient?
I see when I look at it, and you're talking about all the coincidences, right?
Right.
I still, and this is probably the biggest reason why I say the government needs to provide an assessment of what happened, and it needs to be an official assessment. Here's what fucking went wrong. Here's where the failures occurred. Blah blah blah. Because to me, I look at it and I don't see conspiracy. I see a complete fucking failure of multiple levels of the situation. I think it absolutely was just an entire clusterfuck of a situation that ended in the worst possible way. I don't see a conspiracy. I just see some lunatic that decided to do something stupid and it,
right.
Well,
like you said, they weren't prepared for it.
Right, and I mean, it's just when I look at that body cam footage, when I look at the body cam footage of them trying to get on that roof, and I watched, I don't know if it was clipped or what, but I watched them go across and get to the two other guys that were standing there over him, and what I was noticing was the blood and how far down the roof it had come already by that time. And I'm like, this is not something that happened over the course of 30, 45 seconds. This shit took a while. And I'm like, for that to have taken that long, y'all were completely unprepared, which supports to me that it was just a clusterfuck of a failure all the way around. It potentially wasn't anything planned as a failure. It was just a fucking failure. And the only reason we see it and consider it to be a conspiracy is because it's not something that frequently happens, but that's maybe not because it's frequently stopped. Maybe it just doesn't happen that often. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think there's it's fair to assess it from that point of view, which is where I try to start my observations. But the whole point of this nation, just so you know, when we look at these criminal cases, and I kind of I disagree completely. We're all entitled to our own opinion. I think that if you are entitled to your own opinion, just keep it to yourself on most issues with it that we look at, because people aren't looking as an American citizen. You're supposed to be looking at the government's actions against a fellow citizen. That's what you're supposed to be observing. You're not supposed to be out there thinking you're going to solve this fucking crime with your cell phone. You're supposed to evaluate the actions the government are taking against a citizen of the United States. And that's what your job as a government, you the people being the government, that's what you're supposed to pay attention to. What you see Lana doing a lot, truth and transparency. And that's our role in any of these people's cases. It's not up to us to solve the case or or come up with all these different ideas of how it might or might not have happened. It's literally to look, did the police follow the protections that are put in place for all of us? Did they do their job in a consistent manner? Is the evidence being produced verifiable and true? Those are the parts of crime you're supposed to observe. And along the way, you're going to hear what the accusations are and the horrificness of it, the tragedy in it. That's a part of it, but you're not supposed to then take that tragedy and come up with the opinion some fucking jerk off moved the manhole cover and snuck in through a tunnel, right? Okay, that is not an opinion. That's just a bunch of wackadoodle fucking somebody needs to give that guy a pill. Okay, that's what I mean. We're not all entitled to an opinion. You can have your own opinion, but when did people realize that best opinions you can ever have are kept to yourself?
Well, you were asking about the Out of Hope 4 stuff. I still see stuff being posted, as videos for me to watch or whatever. And some of the stuff that I see on the thumbnails, I'm like, good God, how did you even incorporate this? Like, I think I saw one that was talking about the Aryan family or some shit.
The Aryan Nation?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a white supremacist group that killed 4 white people.
Yeah, I know. But they killed white people?
Apparently they do, according to Harsh. I don't know. I mean, I don't mind naming names. These people have the capacity and the platforms to do good. And they spend all of their time wasted in the fucking muck and mud of what they consider everybody's entitled to their opinion. Yeah, okay. Have at it, folks. You go in there and share all your different opinions, none of which that amount to a hill of beans.
I second what you said a couple of minutes ago, as far as, picking and choosing what parts of the case you want to dissect or, make irrelevant in your own mind instead of looking at the evidence and putting all the pieces that you do have and the facts that you do have in order to see what they do have against the person rather than trying to say, well, they don't have this or they don't have that. Where the fuck did it go?
Yeah, I the tragedy of that case is that the data that we have, like I have yet to see anything that shows that the argument made in the PCA, there is not one shred of evidence that makes that story true. None. Nothing. And then I don't even want to talk about DNA. To me, that topic has got nothing to do with nothing.
Well, of course.
There's nothing that they allege that they can verifiably show to be true. You have to assume it's true, and your assumption is being fueled by your inclusion of the DNA in your thinking, and that's what makes you a moron. The DNA didn't come until after the arrest, and as observers and citizens of a fucking we the people government, we need to know what they did prior to the arrest to get the warrant to get his DNA. That's the part we're supposed to pay attention to.
Well, let me ask you a question about the DNA. Can you fix the fucking screen so we're not talking in Sarge's world?
We're in Sarge's world right now. He just deleted us.
Yeah.
You didn't like looking at that handsome devil? Wait, where'd he go? There he is.
There he is right there.
How you like them apples?
Would you consider the DNA to be circumstantial evidence?
No, I would consider it inadmissible in a court of law.
Yeah, because most cases they don't even. I mean, I did a whole live on this, and they were talking about the myth of DNA evidence, and a lot of times they don't even use DNA as convicting factors. They have other things to use.
Correct.
That isn't circumstantial. You know what I mean? Like, this case has more evidence than we've been shown, I'm sure, because of the gag order.
Well, the reason I ask is I heard somebody make an argument the other day that this case would have been circumstantial as well if it weren't for the DNA. And I was like, but the DNA technically is circumstantial as well, because I know if I was a jury member, you would have to prove to me he was at that house in order for me to give you any credit on the DNA on that sheet at all.
Right, because like Sarge just said, they went and got it after the fact. Right. Like when they arrested him.
Let's say the DNA led you to him like it does in cold cases, but that isn't what happened here.
Well, and even in that situation,
all of this all of this ancillary connections and his activity that night and where he went and when he went there is what led them to focus on him. And then and only then after DNA stuff starts coming down. But none of the DNA was used in the warrant to arrest and charge him with multiple homicides.
Right.
So that's the problem I have with this case, is that what led you to this guy? Why did the information you're claiming and the information they've given us doesn't make a single connection to Kohberger and those victims at all? It quite the contrary. It shows that he had no connection to him at all. Not that night, not any night. So how did you get to this fucking guy? Why him? And that's important when you're an American. You can't. You just can't pull fucking evidence out of your ass and tell us. It's like arguing he robbed a 7-Eleven when in fact he really robbed a Starbucks.
Well, I think the thing that I took issue with about that statement was the fact that you're putting, just because it's DNA, you're putting it in a whole, the person was putting it in a whole nother realm outside of circumstantial. And I'm like, at the end of the day, the type of evidence doesn't exclude it from being circumstantial, right? Like, I mean, it just, I don't know. It's
you're right.
Like,
you're right, Cletus. You're right.
It's almost
because
like
had it been circumstantial is evident that is related to the crime, but you can't very well tell where it came from.
Right, and we don't know how the sheets got there, because at the end of the day, they don't have Brian on camera walking into that house, or nobody would be fucking.
We don't even know the murder weapon came out of that sheet. We don't even have a murder weapon. We don't know that sheet had anything to do with this crime at all, if it just happened to be in the possession of the victims the whole time. We don't know how it got placed under her.
I made an argument. I made an argument against something I think you had said, where, could one of the victims that had that K-bar knife in the sheath and the killer take it away from her and stab her with their own knives? Yeah. But come on, you would have to know that she had that knife on her.
No, you wouldn't.
At that particular time. How are you going to walk into a residence without your own weapon, hoping that there's a weapon?
Because you're not including because you're taking it out of the explanation I gave. I said that it was Dylan Mortensen that had a problem with the two girls upstairs. And she never went up there with the intent to do bodily harm. She went up there to get angry, and she was jealous, and an argument ensued, right? And that's when the knife came out to threaten her to leave them alone. And she then was able to get that knife away and use it as she did.
I thought you meant that the person who committed the crime walked in and took the knife.
No. What I just said to you is exactly what I had said prior.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in fairness,
I thought it was somebody within the story. If you want to look at the perpetrator, look in the immediate circle and look within the story of actual verifiable evidence. Who was in that house?
Fair enough.
Right? And who do we know was in the house? Bethany and Dylan. So let's try to see if if the fact base fits one of them or both of them as being the murderers.
I'm just shocked the dog hasn't been implicated by people, bro.
Well, you never know. We'll fight him.
I mean, the dog could have done them all. He's scot free. What were you going to say, Cletus?
Hell, I pulled a 12 gauge. I don't remember. I don't know why in the hell I dropped my damn phone. Just killed the app, and I had to restart. But anyway,
I have owned monkeys in the past. I just find that listen, I think it's an interesting case, but I see it for reasons I believe that 99% of the streamers out here intentionally avoid. And as I said today, in that one I made that comment in July of 2022, I had a Dago and I had a couple other streamers that were willing to go ahead and start discussing the potentiality of a person within the residence being involved in this crime. And I don't believe that the person, what I laid out, I don't think that she went up there with malice in her heart at all. I mean, she's mad, jealous, angry, which is what we were originally told could possibly be the motive for the murder. And so what I'm pointing out is this is an opinion, but it's based on only the evidence that we can actually look at and lay down and make a picture out of, right? And you can't lay that same evidence down and blame Brian Kohberger. Forget the DNA. Just make it make sense that he was in the house that night.
Right.
without the DNA, and you can't do it. But who can you make sense? What makes sense, and who can you really place in that house? And when you look at it from that angle fairly, it ends up being Dylan and Bethany. And I keep
Okay.
Bethany out of it, but
Occam's razor. Why
Hmm?
keep her out of it? That's why I never understood is why couldn't what makes her any less culpable than Dylan? You know what I mean? Like people are always trying to protect Bethany. What
well,
makes her less culpable?
then that would be a premeditated act on the part on those both of them,
Well, that's what
right?
I'm saying is we don't.
It could
If
be.
I'm going to put Dylan in there, I'm going to put Bethany in there also because what makes her so? What makes her less culpable?
I agree. I do. I do agree
Listen,
with that completely.
I
You
don't
know,
object to you adding it in like that. I agree with that. It's a reasonable evaluation of who was in that property at the time of the crime.
Yeah.
It's fair to put her in it. I don't put her in it because the narrative that I think fits really
well,
well
I get your
would be
narrative, but
pre-planned. Yeah.
well, I'm not saying she actually did anything, but she could have been the lookout. She could have been
Right.
the person that cleaned up a little bit after the crime. I mean, there could have been multiple ways that she was implicated and culpable in this crime. People
And the other
just
thing
go ahead.
against an outsider is you don't leave two people alive, specifically one standing in a doorway that you've passed now for the third time, and it was closed the last two times. Now it's open.
Yeah.
And people trying to make excuses, you wouldn't know that. You have no idea what you notice when you're a criminal. When you're in the act of a crime, you're so hyper focused. Oh, yeah. But you're also hyper aware. Your senses are up.
Yeah.
Everything about you is enhanced when you're in the middle of that kind of a violent outrage. And so I just can't accept the idea. I know that I couldn't have, can't even imagine myself walking by that door and not seeing that girl. And if I've just killed 3 women, one more is not really going to faze me.
Yeah.
So that's another struggle I have with this whole her whole description blows my mind. 5'10", not a heavy set, but athletic build, which is her. She's describing herself, and then she switched over into listen, a needle in all the haystacks of the world. Go find it, because when you break down the description Dylan gives the police, you ain't ever finding that motherfucker ever.
Yeah.
Well, like you had said it numerous times. 5'10", was that on the step or off the step?
Right.
Because if it was on the step, that adds 6 inches to that person, right? Isn't that what you discussed before?
Yeah, and if it was below the step, who was it? News Nation or another channel was out there kind of making the way they said it would bloom as if he was coming down the stairs when she saw him. They didn't say that, but they inferred that strongly. Right. And that can't be. She can't observe someone walking towards her without physically stepping out of her doorway to look at the staircase. You follow me? Because of the way the door swings in such a way that when she opens it,
Well, did
her
she see
immediate
him
view is
step?
the kitchen
Did she
and
see
the
him
main
step
room.
off? Did she see him step off
Yeah.
eyeball to eyeball? Because
I
she's
don't know.
5'10", right? At
Yeah.
Well,
least.
the way that the description of what she saw is written, she would have had to, because it says he then walked toward the back door, or as he was walking
Right.
toward the back door, which the only way that that's possible for her to have seen him and describe his face is if he was coming from the living room, stepped down and walked right by her with her standing right there. So yeah, I mean, it just I'm with Sarge, right? It's probably the biggest thing that
he's
I
always
think a
said
lot of
that.
people. I think it's the thing a lot of people are hung up on and have been since the PCA came out.
Yeah.
So
He said that, in her story, it's almost like she's describing her place in it, except she's putting another person's culpability in it.
correct. And that's human nature. When asked your first name randomly by a stranger, you will give it. Or
And
in
here's
today's day and age, mainly in today's day and age, people get a defense and say, why do you want to know? But normally the first thing you're going to give information when you're talking even to a stranger, you're going to give the truth.
so let me give you a scenario that
That's a natural. Go ahead.
I think there's plenty of evidence to support. I think it's just as possible that Dylan and Bethany are completely innocent. And the reason that the PCA looks the way it does is because they took some serious liberties with certain things. specifically the description that she allegedly gave. Because I find it really hard to believe that she said 5'10" or taller. I find that really hard to believe. I find a lot of the things that are in there that were statements, which, well, there really isn't that many, but pretty much everything they wrote up that she said, I've always thought that seems really odd to me. It does. It seems really fucking odd to me. It just doesn't work.
You're right.
And we know that police department has a history of being corrupt.
Let me ask you a question, Cletus. Whenever a younger person gives a description and you ask them, hey, how tall do you think they were? Well, if you're that same height, you're going to say, well, they're about my height or a little taller.
Right.
Are you going to give, okay, 5'10" or taller? Are you going to say that? You know, most younger kids are going to be like, well, they're a little taller than me, so to speak.
Well, and I'm in agreement with, to me, I look at the situation as a whole, and I say I think it's completely possible that they made what she said fit Brian.
I don't suspect that happened. I agree with what 12 Gauge just said. How tall was he? He was my height. Well, how tall are you, ma'am? I'm 5'10", and that ended up in the affidavit. I don't see anything deceptive about that, nor do I find her words deceptive. But in all of this, the one person that's told us that's told us with no ambiguity that they were there before, during, and after, and part of the call to the police is Dylan Mortensen. She's told us that right from the very first instant that any information was released to us, and yet we aren't allowed to look at her as being involved.
I mean, how the hell did she know that everybody was supposedly in their rooms or asleep at 4 a.m.? How did she know that?
Don't know.
Well, and here's the other part of it, though, right? And this is where I run into a problem, is we haven't heard that from her. We've heard that from Brett Payne, who wrote the PCA.
Right.
So, which means we have to put faith in what he's saying to be 100% factual. And based on what we've seen occur since then and has come to light since then, maybe not him specifically, but in general, I don't have faith in anything they've claimed. So I can't be selective and say, okay, I'm going to put faith in that. Does that make sense?
His wording.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're throwing everything out the window because there's so much that's been out that doesn't even belong in the room. There isn't even a window to throw it out of because it shouldn't be in here anyway.
Right. And I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to promote conspiracy theories, but I am sitting here going, at the end of the day, you guys do not have Brian. You don't have him dead to rights. Not with what you've presented and not with the bullshit that you've pulled. It's just not going to happen. So therefore, I can't look at anything that's in the PCA and consider it to be factual, including the statements that you claim Dylan made.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to look at it from the simplest explanation. And when somebody gives you all that information, I think I have a hard time not accepting what's said in the PCA is coming from her. Because she was there. She had, so you got to explain something. And the fact is that she just didn't come out and say, I was sleeping, I didn't hear nothing, is highly suspicious to me. Why was she awake?
Do you think maybe they took two statements and combined them to make one?
Well, I think they took liberties with some of the things she said. It could be as simple as, well, I couldn't really tell what his face looked like. He might have had a mask on. So therefore they took the liberty to say he had a black mask covering his nose and mouth. Right. Well,
the statements that she says that she opened her door 3 times. She says that. Yeah, I take that.
The reason that I asked that, because you can't tell me that Bethany didn't have any statements whatsoever about what she heard or seen. And none of that was in there unless it was redacted. So,
and when you combine that with the paperwork that attorney filed in Nevada saying that, somebody working with the defense saying that they know she has exculpatory information based on things she saw and heard.
Right.
Then the question absolutely
comes. Unique to her.
Right. That she saw and heard.
That's what I'm saying. How did they get 2 stories and combine them together? Like Dylan heard so much and then Bethany heard so much, so they got two stories and collaborated their story to make a match.
I
Yeah,
think
we don't know.
they took the story that worked to make an arrest and they tried to suppress the other
Okay.
and prayed that they would be able to get a plea deal, which
Well,
they have a history of doing. So
in my textbook, it identified exculpatory evidence as physical evidence. So it makes me wonder what physical evidence that she has that is going to exonerate this man. What physical evidence?
well,
Not
see, my
sight,
my
not
understanding
hearing.
my understanding of exculpatory evidence isn't really necessarily physical. It's something that's in favor of the defendant.
Well, yeah, I understand that also, but it broke it down in my textbook because I was looking it up and it said physical evidence.
Okay.
So physical to me means something that you can touch, something that's you can not necessarily. Well, of course you're going to see it, but I'm talking about it being less than something you hear or something that It's
So
more like what you
you're
touch.
talking knife sheath.
Well, she could. I mean, hey, it could also be something like footage of who the fuck ran out of the house.
Right? Exactly. That's what I was wondering. Because the exculpatory evidence was never heard that we're aware of unless she spoke on it in a grand jury hearing, and it wasn't enough to
I
exonerate.
think I think just based on what I've reviewed and the thought that I put into it is that I suspect that what she saw was a person that wasn't white. They were either Hispanic or black.
Why's it
That's
got
the
to be
feeling I have
Hispanic,
about it.
bro? Why's they got to be Hispanic? Racial profiling and shit. What the hell? Just because it
They
was a
could
knife used in the
they
crime
could have been
not
Asian,
Mexican,
except they
bro?
would have had to have. Listen, they could have been Asian, but there weren't grappling hooks used to climb the stairs, so I
Well,
eliminated
I'm
them.
with any other race, but you take that Hispanic bullshit to the curb, man.
Latin.
Oh,
Listen, Enrico, let me tell you. If I wanted any shit out of you, I'd go to Mexico. Okay,
oh fuck.
racist bastards. Yeah, it's an interesting case, and the details that we do know, and when you string those details together, to me, there isn't that many images that you can paint. When you
Right.
stick with just the details that have been done in court and motions and reports by the police and warrants and returns on warrants, when you look at all of this shit, like I thought it was over the minute they said there was no DNA or anything linking Koberger at his house, his apartment, his workplace, and his car. That just blew me away. I mean, clearly, if you're the police department, you want to know that shit before you arrest the guy, don't you?
Of
And
course,
with
you
all
think
of the,
so.
with all of the argument that you surreptitiously got somebody's cigarette butt, how is it that once he became a target, you didn't look to go grab DNA from an apartment you knew he occupied and showered in? And why did you have to arrest him first to get a warrant to search that? Why wasn't that used or his workplace used to swab for a DNA sample? That's the problem I have with this case. It's as if the case didn't get investigated until after they made up a story to arrest the guy. And now the story they made up is unverifiable.
The
Because they're a
story
bunch of
worked
jackasses.
backwards. Like they went backwards. They put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I suspect happened here. And I suspect that this kid did do
Great,
it.
Pearl. Thank you.
I think even if he did do it, he stands a chance of this case getting removed.
Yeah.
Now I didn't boot Cletus. He must have just jumped down and I didn't notice it, which is fine. I
Yeah.
don't mind. But
I mean,
yeah,
I don't claim to know everything, so I could be wrong,
What
But
have you been telling me?
I read that in my textbook, so you're saying my textbook is wrong. It's
Who?
the Gray Pearl. If
Oh.
that's what she's talking about, I don't know. But I don't claim to be right about everything.
Yeah, I do.
I'm obligated to make one mistake a year, right?
Exculpatory.
Well,
No,
I
he was
could
talking
Google
about
it. I
something.
could Google it. I read it out of my textbook. I'm going to school for this.
What's the topic that you're talking about? Physical evidence?
Yes.
Is what you were discussing.
Yes. Exculpatory is physical evidence.
I don't know that exculpatory is physical evidence, because exculpatory can simply say that I was with you. Me and him were together. They never
Well,
questioned
that's
me.
the meaning.
Nobody would listen to me.
That's the meaning that I thought it meant. I've thought that all along. Any information that can be used with the defendant to exonerate or prove evidence didn't exist with them being there, right? So I was reading that in my book, and it it blew me away because I highlighted it says exculpatory evidence is always physical evidence. So I mean, I don't know if Google got it wrong or not. I mean, so I could
Well,
be wrong.
physical evidence, you're a physical being and you're telling us what you saw. You're
Right,
telling us
right,
that you were right. That I see. To me, exculpatory evidence is evidence that likely shows that this person did not commit the crime. That's my understanding of exculpatory evidence. Okay.
based on what though? Are you going
Because
to say
any
auditory?
evidence that any
But are you
evidence that's
saying
favorable.
auditorily? Are you saying physical? Are you saying
I'm saying all of the above when it comes to exculpatory evidence. If I give testimony that you were with me and I can verify my testimony, okay,
yeah?
then that becomes an exculpatory statement beneficial to you, the
But
accused.
the simple statement has to have some kind of backing. Like
Mhm.
you say that I was with you, but what do you have to prove? Do you have a receipt that we went out to eat together? Do you have video that we're sightseeing and looking at the birds? I mean, what do you have to prove that? There
At
has
that
to
point,
be some kind of
maybe
proof.
I have nothing. Maybe I have nothing, but my word.
But your wording's not enough.
I know
That's
in
hearsay.
that respect.
That's
Listen,
hearsay.
listen. I well, no, it's not hearsay. It's witness testimony. Hearsay would
Okay.
be third party.
Okay.
So when all of these jerk offs come into YouTube telling you that they got information from a third fucking party, that's hearsay,
Right.
right?
Right.
You heard someone and now you're saying it. That's why they call it hearsay. You heard and that's third party. That's why I say everybody with third party data, tell us to let us see the facts and then tell us your fucking story.
Right. Right.
I don't want to
But
hear your
you get,
story. I
but
don't want
you
to hear
get
it.
my point, right? You get
Yeah,
how
no, you're right.
there is a
And
portion. There is a portion of exculpatory that is in physical nature.
right, but an exculpatory in this case where you have two people, let's say that it was one of your cousins that committed this crime, right?
Yeah.
And she identified not that their gender preference was this, that, or the other, but that the person was of Hispanic or a descent other than white.
Right.
So
Well, that would be a physical description. You're right. You're
right,
right.
and she would be contradicting what was said upstairs because, as far as we know, she didn't identify a nationality, which I think is a little bit
No, she did.
problematic. Was the guy white? You saw his eyebrows. You said he had a mask that covered his nose and mouth. So I picture a COVID mask, right?
Right.
Well, you
And
couldn't see his skin tone.
I've thought that from the beginning. When she said bushy eyebrows, well, they're different color bushy eyebrows. They're not all dark.
Right.
So was it an Irishman? Was it a ginger? What kind of bushy eyebrows
Well,
were
was he white or was he black with bushy eyebrows? Was he
they? Right,
Hispanic with
right,
bushy
right,
eyebrows? You guys got some thick ass eyebrows, to be honest with you,
right.
right? I mean, it's not that common in white dudes, but in Hispanics for sure. They do have bushy eyebrows, bro, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, whatever.
Well, there's some Indians with bushy eyebrows too.
Right,
That
right.
Saeed dude had some
But you
big
get distracted by that
potato
dot on
whiskers.
their head, you never even see their eyebrows. That's some racist shit, right?
It's been a while. You just busted my balls
It's just too
right
fucked up, bro.
now.
But no, I agree. See, now I agree with the explanation here. Exculpatory
Yeah.
evidence in criminal law. It's evidence that tends to show that the person is not guilty of the crime of which he or she is accused. And
I
an
don't debate
independent
that
witness
at
with
all. I
testimony
don't
that
debate
person
that at
was
all.
right was a different race where she saw two people, or I don't know, maybe she heard things at different times. That would also be kind of fucked up, right?
Yeah.
So we
I
won't
mean,
know
my
until
point is just I don't understand her not hearing or being part of it, because many people say, and this is in speculatory land, they say she wasn't there. I don't know where they got that from. But if that's true, then that could have been, um,
The
you
only
know,
thing I'm aware of is that she was outside with the group of other people when the emergency responders responded.
yeah,
And I remember reading that way back. I don't know if it was from the media or it was said that she was out front
yeah.
when they went into the property. Okay. And so, and I also suspect and have for the longest time that the call to 911 was because I suspect Dylan Mortensen fainted. I suspect an unconscious person was one of the people that discovered the scene, not describing the scene itself. In all
I've always
fairness,
thought that too. I thought it was either
right?
Bethany or Dylan. One of them was passed out or unconscious.
Yeah,
I
she's
agree.
got a big hill to climb when it comes to the 8 hours. But it's not even trying to solve the crime that matters. It's what do they have to prove to us without beyond a reasonable doubt that it was Brian. And it really is going to come down to their argument of that knife sheath. But again, you can't place him in that house, so that knife sheath, it could be any number of ways
That's
that
what
knife sheath.
that's. I agree with you, man. I agree with you on that. Many people have so many theories about outside the home.
Right.
It's you have to place him in the home. It don't
Any
make a
of
shit if he's
them.
outside twiddling on a damn wood stick with a knife and it's a K-bar. If he's nowhere in the house with that, or you can prove that,
Right.
then it doesn't matter.
I agree. And
Many
that's starting
people,
to
when you brought up the Dylan Mortensen, and I've heard you say this more than once as well, you said when you went down that avenue, from then on, that Linda Lane bullshit started, and it went from there. You never
it
got to
never got
go.
discussed. None of the
Yeah, it
streamers
never got
and then
discussed.
and, and it's only been over the last maybe this is what 20 since last year sometime late.
Yeah,
And I did a stream. You can actually go back into my videos. I did a stream where I put that together. I've said that on streams for 2 years,
yeah. I
right?
remember
From
hearing.
2020 from
I
22
remember
forward.
hearing you
Yep.
on Dagos talking about
And
Dylan and
it's
that theory.
right. It's remiss of us not to consider the options that we can verify. You have to consider them first and foremost and wait for it to develop.
Right.
And so when people, well, that means the band's no, there's no legal, there's no documentation entered into this case that connects to anything all these other streamers are showing you on cell phone pictures, on kids walking across the
I
park.
mean, even
Those
the even
those are
the
no connection to
even
the
the
crime.
Elantra doesn't really prove anything. That's
No,
circumstantial. If you're going to say anything circumstantial, that would be circumstantial evidence because it's
I
not
agree.
against the law to drive around a fucking apartment complex.
Right, but we know they identified that as an 11 to 13.
Well, of course,
We know the identity of that guy, right?
that is circumstantial evidence. That's not evidence
No,
proving.
that's actually evidence is factual nature. That's listen, that's a factual statement backed up by a video that a 2011 to 2013 Elantra was in that area that night,
But do
and
they
that's what they
see
caught
him?
on the video. But it
Do they
doesn't
see him
implicate
in the
Brian.
car?
Listen, it can't implicate Brian, but it still is factual evidence
Well,
that
of
becomes
course,
exculpatory. There's
of course,
a piece of hard evidence that's an example of it. The
yeah.
identity of that vehicle by their professionals proves that's not Kohlberger's car.
But he fucking made a U-turn, bro.
Well, yeah, okay,
The
Judge.
wrong time at the wrong place.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know. Maybe you're part Jamaican or something. What the hell? Where are you coming from?
I'm just messing with you, bro.
I know you
I'm
are,
just
bro.
messing with you. I appreciate you having me on, man. I got to go on in about 8 minutes or so. I'm
Yeah.
going
Do your
live,
thing. I got to
so
run out here and do some rubber burning.
yeah.
You know.
So I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much. Have a great live. The rest of it, okay?
You too.
All right, man. See you later.
See you. 12, 11 plus 1. Audi. Eat Audi. Anyway, yeah, folks. It's an interesting case when you look at the merits of the verifiable data and not what everybody on the YouTube channels is telling you is relevant. Because the problem is there's nothing connecting their arguments and their points of view to any real evidence that can be displayed in the court of law being alleged against Kohlberger. None of the things that they're pointing out. It's crazy. Right? Eddie is coming. Feels he's going home. I hope he owns Idaho after. Yeah, you just can't make what they're arguing on their accusatory instrument. You just can't make sense of what they're saying. None of it lands on Brian Koberger. And that's been the same question Ann's been asking since the very beginning. How did you get to my client? How did you get to my client? Right? And they don't say. They say, and they trap themselves. The prosecution animately has stated that none of the DNA work was connected to getting to Brian Koberger. And none of it was used in the warrant to arrest Brian Koberger. That's why I keep trying to tell people, you can't pay attention to the knife sheath and the DNA until you could get the evidence on what it took for them to focus on this guy. Remember, you're a free person in this country. The government has limits on how they can encroach on your freedoms. Suspicion of a crime is not carte blanche to rip into your life. And then to charge you with a crime. Suspicion in and of itself, without a factual basis to support the suspicion, isn't enough to charge somebody with quadruple homicide. That's what Ann's saying when she keeps asking, how did you get to my client? How did you get to my client? And there, like I've said, the prosecution has already taken DNA off the table. So if DNA was not how you got to my client, how did you? Your pictures of the crime scene, the car in that particular video is clearly not my client. So now what's the next thing that turned you on? The car over on Indian Hills? Now she's asking them over and over again for all the video and the businesses that lead over to that area. You can't just show a car pulling out of Indian Hills Drive without any camera footage of it pulling in to Indian Hills Drive. It had to have gotten there by being driven by Brian Koberger. It couldn't originate there, and if it did originate there, then it originated from one of the homeowners. That would meant Brian, even if you want to argue about Brian was visiting, that still doesn't negate that you need video showing the car getting there. And they don't have that. So where did that car come from? The one at 3:26 a.m. Did it just magically appear out of thin air? So all of these points that she keeps bringing up, folks, are points that matter in the realm of law and what the government is allowed and not allowed to do when they interact with you, whether it be for a criminal case or it be for pulling you over for a ticket. If you go jogging, you do like as long as I'm not driving a motor vehicle, okay? Anywhere I go does not require me to have an ID on my person. That's a Supreme Court ruling. And this applies to the entire country. You do not need to carry ID. But people get harassed for it all the time by the police because that's poor training. That's when I say endemic corruption, it's the training that these people get, the mindset that's put into the people that get hired to be police by the police previous to them, right? That have accepted to work within a system that they know is effed up, but they can't really speak up because they'll lose their job and their pension. So they got a gun to their head if they come out and they want to do the right thing for the constitutionally right thing. They basically would have to lose their career in some cases, maybe not in all, but in some, or in enough, or they're convinced of that. And that's just a shitty place to have to be if you go to work every day. Yeah. And that's to me, what they did with Brian Koberger, that's the interesting part of this case is what they did constitutionally valid? Is what they did based on evidence that they can show? Like Mr. 12 Gauge was saying, exculpatory evidence have to be something you can verify and prove it, physical in one way, shape, or form, right? So why would Say Ray come? Because he was hired by the defense to come in. That's why, I believe, wasn't he? Or did he come and do this all on his own? I don't know how he came in all fairness. Listen, two things are possible, just so you know, folks. And this is what Cy Ray, when he said, I see it differently, but I'm subject to change based on any evidence during discovery that would change my mind. So they got a map of a claimed route that this gentleman was on, and they did it without having any specific data that would allow them to make that scientific determination. They didn't get that till November till January, March, I think, the following year. They applied for a warrant from AT&T, which then would give them the ability to track that phone with more accuracy. They didn't have that when they wrote the warrant, so they made guesses. Right? Remember the first cop? Well, we don't got him on camera leaving here, so based on my experience of this neighborhood, he would have went out over through this way. Right? Which is kind of silly to say, because why would going out that way not include any cameras either? So again, here's a car that just picks up and vanishes. They pick it up on Indian Hills Road, it comes out of nowhere, and apparently when it left the crime, it simply vanished. And there's no video footage of it anywhere. So they're guessing how it left the neighborhood. That's just ridiculously sad police work. Right? And usually you want to do things through process of elimination. If you can. I mean, that's how you track things down, right? You got to eliminate things as you go. And I don't know where Cy Ray is going to come down on this, because we don't know until he tells us. He said he's made one statement, but he protected his ass smartly and said, I haven't seen all the discovery and all the things that they've done. Until I have that, I want to leave that door open. So, I respect the guy for saying that, but it doesn't help our understanding of it, obviously. But if let's just say that if what he said on that stand can be held to be correct, then there's another huge hole in the case. Right? It's a mess. It's almost like the Karen Reed case. It's just a complete mess. You're going to tell me that you didn't tamper with a taillight, that you were never near that taillight. You're going to show me a picture proving you were never near that taillight. All while you know that fucking image has been mirrored. It's been mirrored so that it shows that you were not near the taillight. And you know it was mirrored, you fucking douchebag cop. That's a fucking problem. And that's in the Karen Reed case. That's what we're supposed to be outraged about. Not outraged and try to convince her or she didn't do it. I can understand you thinking and feeling that. But these policemen, who's holding any of those people to account? The real crime in that case, unfortunately, is a man lost his life. Whether she did it or not, I think shouldn't even have a day in court based on what we've seen these police officers do. Their own explanations that how could you lie to the jury like that, knowing there's a picture up on a TV screen showing you on the left side of the vehicle, and you know that image is mirrored, that image really shows unequivocally you all looking at the right taillight of that vehicle. I don't know why somebody hasn't reversed that image, because I want to see if that image reversed shows that taillight intact. Imagine that. I don't know how. I think they lost the original or something. There's going to be some game played, but remember, you mirrored that image. Even when the truck pulls in, the driver of the vehicle gets out on the passenger side, clear view of the camera, because the angle of the camera would be pointing at the passenger side of the vehicle. How does the driver? What do we live in England? Do we all of a sudden drive on the left side of the car now? Is her car so unique and so high class that she has one directly imported from England or Germany or wherever it was made with left-hand drive? Because if that's not the case, and she has a right-hand drive, I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic. I get that shit confused. But anyway, how the hell do you get out of the right-hand side of a vehicle on a left-hand drive vehicle? How do you pull it into a garage, put it in park, and turn it off and get out on the right-hand side of a vehicle on camera? And it's an American SUV. You only noticed, that bothered me originally when I saw the video. I was waiting for the other side of the truck. I thought maybe there were two people in the vehicle when I first saw that clip. And I sat here waiting to see if anybody got out of the driver's side. Because I was immediately, once I saw that footage, I was like, that ain't right. How could the driver of that vehicle be the person on the right-hand side? See, that in and of itself, to me, this person the case should be dismissed with prejudice. And this crime, whether she did it or not, shouldn't be anything she should be on trial for. It's just the same thing with Kohlberger. It's just too crazy. The police have made too many mistakes. And our judicial system, folks, I know we all want to know who did it. I know we all want to punish those that did it. But the judicial system is set up so the government can't run you over. And even if they've got the correct perpetrator, if they violated that perpetrator's And it's not, if they cross the limits of that Constitution to get to you, then the case needs to be dismissed. I mean, that's the only. I mean, you can look at that however you want. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, the outcome is the accused, whether they're guilty or not, should be free from prosecution. That's the way our country works. And it doesn't mean I'm pro criminal or pro murder or pro whatever. It just means that the standard the government is supposed to maintain needs to be maintained. And to be very honest with you, if they maintained and kept to the standard, then we probably would have more people in prison for crimes that were legitimately fucking prosecuted. Because people that'll take fucking shortcuts on a serious case take shortcuts in everything they do. And you're in a profession that's surrounded by tragedy, and you have to be the observer and the reporter of said tragedy, and oftentimes the one to discover how the tragedy began and who or what was involved in that tragedy. So you're putting a hell of a lot of responsibility on somebody in those jobs, and you can't take shortcuts, you know. And yet we see our police officers doing this all the time. Our investigators, our Department of Justice, lawyers, always taking shortcuts instead of following the written in stone rules that they're supposed to be following. So, yeah, all criminals shut off their phone. I bet you that's not true. I bet you that's not true at all. And I'll tell you why it's not true. And you know why it's not true, folks? Because there's a device called a stinger that exists that you're not supposed to know about. And that device allows them to track people on their phones. So let me just say that if criminals turn their phones off as often as they want you to think, that fucking stinger would be useless. What are you going to do with a stinger when the phone is off? A stinger is more of a location device than anything else. You can intercept across a certain number. Imagine you could even tie into that number to record or keep that data. But more importantly is you could track that phone. And so what is a phone tracking device if criminals are always turning off their phones? I think that's a myth. I don't think that happens as often as people would hope it does, or we all think we're smarter than that. But I don't give the human condition as is that much credit to be smart enough to turn your phone off before you go in and rob a store. I could see you leaving it in your car like an idiot, but turning it off, maybe more and more over time will. But I don't think that's as common as that policeman seems to have tried to make it seem, because that would negate the technology, and especially would negate that device called a stinger. What good would that be? I mean, if it was that rare that you could track a criminal's phone while he's committing a crime, it can't be that rare, folks, or you wouldn't have a machine that would do that. In my humble opinion. I mean, you know, you don't have air pumps at a gas station because people don't need air. Not every car needs air, but enough people need air often enough that you put an air machine there, right? Clearly not every car needs it. But I don't think the averages of how many cars get air versus how many criminals, I think the average is probably different, the opposite. The few people that do need air are the few people that are criminals that actually turn their phone off. I think the great majority of criminals are the other ones coming into the gas station that rarely need air, right? And that's, to me, the person that leaves their phone on would be that group of people, right? And that's why I believe the stinger is there, because so many of us don't have that forethought to protect ourselves. All right, well, this has been awesome. Hour and a half stream. Didn't know it would last that long. Cletus jumped like a bitch, and 12 gauge was fun. So yeah, awesome, folks. You all be safe, and yeah, stay out of trouble. I will drive safe, and you guys have a good night. From Beijing and your cock tower, your Ass Hurts News Network, this is Sergeant Friday. We'll see you Monday.